This is Johnny B. Bad, the bad man of World Championship Wrestling, and you're watching the Wrestling Collectors. And if you don't like it, I will kick your booty with my Tutti Frutti.
For 5 years, I've run WrestlingForSale.com, the world's first wrestling merchandise marketplace. I've bought and sold close to 10,000 vintage wrestling collectibles. Along the way, I've had the privilege of meeting some of the world's most passionate collectors. Call them psychos, call them hoarders. Whatever you call them, join me as I explore their never-before-seen piles of gold. These historians and wrestling archivists all strive for one thing, the Holy Grail. I'm your host, Ted Hirsch, and this is the Wrestling Collectors. Welcome back to the Wrestling Collectors. I know it's been a while, but we're back with two die-hard WCW fans. Now, first up, we have my good friend, Frank the Clown. Frank, who's one of the biggest wrestling collectors and biggest wrestling fans I know, is here to talk about his love of CM Punk and Funko Pops. Frank, welcome to the show, and I'm very excited to hear you talk about your collection in great detail.
Yeah, Ted, I appreciate you having me. This is, I dressed up for the occasion, as you can see. Don't mind my mouth not moving. It's just I got my jaw's a little weird right now, and I just can't. Okay, the joke's good. Joke's over. We're good. What's going on? Yeah, so I just turned 30 2 weeks ago. So I've been watching wrestling now for like 25 years, since I was like 5 or 6. Like mid-90s was my jam. And I was a WCW kid through and through. Straight NWO. I was a mark from like 6 years old. I loved the heels. Hated Goldberg. Hated Sting. I was all about the NWO. So early on, I wasn't a flipper of going back and forth to WWF and WCW. I was straight Nitro every Monday, literally until WCW got bought out. My first WWE pay-per-view I ever bought was WrestleMania 17. So that Monday was when they got bought, and then I just smoothly transitioned over, and then obviously been watching continually ever since. But even from a young age, I've always liked collecting anything. Like I was collecting bobbleheads, keychains, action figures. I love Power Rangers when I was a kid. I had Furbies. I had all these different like wacky wobblers made by Funko, and obviously that is carried over into, you see behind me, which we'll get to, Funko Pops. But I've always been a collector at heart, through and through, from a young age to being 30. And literally as I'm 30, I'm collecting literally just like anything in sight now. So
the main thing that you do collect is Funkos.
Oh yeah.
How many can you estimate that you have?
So what's behind me, this is like the reserve room. This is like the overflow of stuff that isn't in my collection that I can part with or sell or trade, whatever. So all this here is just kind of whatever. There is a room, which you're probably looking at right now if you're watching this, of clips that is filled with Funko Pops to the point where I can't even walk into the room anymore. They are now blockading me from entering the room. So overall, in my actual collection, I'm not factoring in any of these behind me, I'm probably around 1,500 Pops. And I have like a tracker. There's a Funko app that tracks the values, the resale values. So I know what my estimated value of the collection is. It's not too shabby. I don't know if I'll give the exact number, but it's pretty good. But I've been collecting Pops since 2015. So I'm going on 6 years, and I got in the game at a good time. It really exploded in the last probably 3 to 4 years. So I was kind of ahead of the curve. So I got a lot of the older, rarer ones that people can't find actively anymore that are worth, hundreds and hundreds of dollars, thousands, some of them. Noel brought me home Pops from Comic-Con 2015, San Diego. And I told him, I want a couple of these. And that was it. Game over. From there on out, I'm just obsessed.
Of the 1,500 that you have, sure, how many of those are wrestling related?
Because that series 1 is like Cena, Punk, Sheamus, Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Rock. So that was probably 2011. Those came out. But I made it a point. I'm like, I need to complete the WWE collection. Now I'm actually one away from a complete collection. Now they probably have over 100 WWE Pops. Now it's not over 100 wrestlers. There's variants, right? There's 5 or 6 different John Cenas. There's multiple Undertakers. There's multiple Ric Flairs, Shawn Michaels. So they really kind of milk certain characters. But Anything they're putting out, I'm buying. I don't care how stupid the variant is. If there's a slight itty bitty like attire change, or one's glow in the dark and one's not. So I'm missing, for anyone that's watching this and has it, a John Cena green hat live events exclusive. It's a very subtle difference. There's like a blue hat Cena in gear. There's another couple Cenas, but this one's a green hat. I mean, I could splurge and buy it, but my thing is I'm stingy and I just want to get it for like either a really good price or trade for it or stumble across it. But I've held out for this long, but it is the one singular WWE pop I'm missing. That's pretty impressive. I don't know anybody else who has that full collection.
And roughly, what does it go for?
Right now, the Cena's probably hovers between like 800 and 1,000. Yeah.
Do you have a favorite wrestler?
Absolutely. Without question, my favorite wrestler, my role model, my hero, CM Punk. I'm a Chicago kid. I'm a straight edge Chicago kid. Me and CM Punk share the same birthday, October 26th. He's got a couple years on me, but I identified with Punk from a very early age. Long before he was in WWE, I was already following him in ROH, in IWA Mid-South. I was like 12, 13 years old. He got signed and he debuted in ECW in 2005. And, but I was already ahead of the curve, and I was like in middle school, and I remember downloading ROH, like DVDs and matches and like stuff he did with Raven and, like Austin Aries when he won a title and his tag stuff with Cabana, all of that. I was just like, I just loved it. Like I hadn't seen, my bubble of wrestling was just what was on TV at that time. I didn't know anything about the independents. I didn't know anything until I found out about Punk. And like, I was young, like I wasn't obviously drinking when I was 12 years old, but like his whole moniker of the straight edge thing really kind of, I don't know, opened my eyes. I it made sense for me. So I've been that way my whole life. No drinking, no smoking, anything. And I'm 30 now. I'm just like, now I'm a creature of habit with it. But Punk has always been that guy for me. And like, don't get me wrong, I love like Hollywood Hogan when I was young and Macho Man. But Punk overall has made like the biggest impact in my life, not only just like as a wrestler, but like as a person. So I mean, I could talk about, we can talk about him for 30 minutes, an hour if you want. But yeah, he's the guy for me for sure.
And it's very rare that someone like you, who's a fan first, I know that you have some ins in the wrestling world, but someone who gets to be front row and be part of the biggest moment of your favorite wrestler's career.
Yeah.
For those at home that don't know, Money in the Bank 2011 main event. To me, that is my favorite WWE match of all time. And even before I knew you, I was like, who the fuck is that clown? Fast forward, here we are.
That night is so special. And like, I've loved John Cena. Like if I put a second favorite wrestler, I'm a John Cena guy through and through. So to have that story culminate in Chicago, Cena Punk, and obviously that was arguably the best storyline build up that we've seen the last decade. And the crowd was just, it almost makes me sad looking back on it, because I don't think that anything will be as good as that. The whole arena is obviously all for Punk. You know, Cena was obviously getting booed at that time anyways, especially in Chicago, but it was unanimous. It was the hottest crowd I've ever been a part of. I'm not even ashamed to say it. Like when Punk's coming in the ring, I was emotional. It was just a very special moment. I knew what it meant to him, and I knew what it obviously meant to me and so many people in Chicago, because that's our guy. Mm-hmm. You still hear the chants to this day when they come to Chicago, when we have crowds again. We've always, he's like just a blue collar, do it yourself punk rock kid that came from here, is proud of the city, and climbed his way to the top in spite of everybody else when he wasn't supposed to. I mean, it's like, how can you not get behind that? So that night, to me, will never be topped. And and to be a part of that final moment of the blowing the kiss, I'm right there in that shot. To be in that spot out of pure irony, like who would ever thought that he would jump, that whole thing, like why? And it happens to be right there next to me. I bought the ticket hours before the show from a scalper friend. I couldn't find a seat because it's a hot ticket. It was just one of those things where the world worked in a very, very strange way.
So how often is Funko coming out with new WWE stuff?
It feels like every day, but realistically, I would say they do different waves every couple months, maybe like every quarter, where, they'll roll out like 4 or 5 new commons, which are readily available, a couple like store exclusives, like an Amazon exclusive or something. So they space them out pretty well. So, but they're always a steady flow. Like the newest wave that's coming out is like Mr. T, a new Macho Man, but then like a glitter version of the Macho Man, new Rock. I think there was like a leaked list that there's going to be a Mankind Rock 2-pack, like a Rock and Sock connection, which is awesome. So they make some really cool ones. And as Funko has grown and they're like generating way more revenue, their detail on the pops have really come a long way from like series 1 to now. So they really are able to put a lot of detail and a lot of little quirks in these pops that are like really, really cool. Their attention to detail is much better now than it was 6 years ago.
Where do you see this market going?
So I was concerned when the pandemic hit that the pop market was going to be hurt by it. The complete opposite happened. People were sitting at home. They got stimulus checks. They were online shopping. It blew up. The resale market blew up. And I'm very well in tune with the resale market. My collection itself, like, you know, grew like 25, 30% in the last 8 months and doing nothing. And there's so many collectors and there's so many resellers in the game now where, you know, big releases like for convention releases, convention exclusives, or special like Funko shop drops that they do every week, these things sell out immediately. So I'm like a veteran and pro of the game, and I'm almost cynical in a way because I'm like, oh, these new people are coming in. I'm like the old guard, but like I still get everything I want, and I have a lot of friends at Funko and all that. But you know, you got to make an effort to get things now. It's not just go to the store, walk in and grab it. You got to put in the time. You got to wait in line sometimes. You got to be online and be there right at the noon or 1 p.m., right when that clock turns to the top of the hour. So I think the market, people are like, well, they're Beanie Babies. To that I say no, because Beanie Babies were simply just animals that had no meaning to people. They weren't characters. They were just like a dog named Scruffy or a cat named whatever. They didn't have any meaning. Where Pops, they cover every license. I mean, not just wrestling, every movie that comes out, Marvel, DC, every sport, NBA, NHL, baseball, football. I mean, ad icons, they have like every, you know, Tony the Tigers. I mean, they cover everything. So there's something for everyone, even like Golden Girls Pops. Like they literally cover everything. So there's something for everyone, which to me, and there's so much they haven't made yet, where even if you're just, you know, you'd be a 50-year-old parent that's walking in the store and you see a pop of like someone that you watched when you were a kid and you're like, oh, I'm going to buy that. And that's the difference between a Beanie Baby, because you don't walk in and see a platypus Beanie Baby. You're like, oh yeah, I need that. So I think the markets continue to grow. There's a bubble with everything, but this is not slowing down at all. So yeah, the pop market is booming. It's crazy. I've been to Comic-Con in San Diego for the last 5 years. It's insane with the Funko stuff out there. It's by far to me the number one exclusives. They have Legos and Hasbro's, but the pop stuff, you got to put in the work if you really want to get something there, and it's a lot of luck sometimes too. So yeah, the Funko game is nuts. I'm glad to be a part of it, but it could be frustrating sometimes too.
What is the holy grail of Funko Pops?
The holy grail of Funko Pops is, I want to say the most expensive Funko Pop is if you're familiar with the movie A Clockwork Orange, it's a cult horror classic from the 70s. The main character in it, his name's Alex DeLarge. They have a chase version of him, and I'm sure people who are watching this understand how chases work. You know, they're the rare variant. But I think there's only like 12 of them made. And this was like in 2010 when Funko Pops were just rolling out. I want to say like only a couple have sold on eBay, but they've all been for at least like 15 grand. So that's like, I don't have any personal interest in it. Obviously, I'm never gonna get my hands on it. But like in terms of like that, the first Funko Pop that pops in my head, that's like the one. Randomly, it's that one. I don't know why, but you know, obviously it's very, very limited. Now there's also other very limited pops. Like there's ones that are limited edition of 24 that are given away at Funko parties, and you know, limited edition 50 and 100, and like yeah, they're worth 5, 10, upwards of that in the tens of thousands. You know, and then I'm a huge Disney collector. I have a huge Funko Pop Disney collection, just Disney collection as is. A lot of the older Disney stuff where they used to give them out at like D23, the Disney convention every year. A lot of those older ones from like 2011. There's like a Sully from Monsters Inc. with like a little Boo metallic version. There's only like a couple hundred of those. These ones are like, there's this Nightmare for Christmas 3-pack. It's a Jack Skellington, Oogie Boogie, and Sally metallic 3-pack that was given out at D23, I want to say in 2011. That is one I'm like, oh. I've stared it down a couple times on eBay, and I'm like, I don't know if I could justify this. My girlfriend would be so mad at me. But But yeah, I am very stingy though. I really don't pay over for stuff very often. And if I do pay over, the value I'm getting out of it, I just bought myself a Metallic Monsters Inc. Soli pop from Comic-Con 2013. There's only 480 of them made. I bought it for my birthday for myself as a gift. Paid $150 for it. It's worth probably like $300-400. I got it like on a deal on Mercari, and I was happy with it. So I'll pay over a lot of times when it's when I'm getting the bang for my buck. But otherwise, like, I'm not just dropping $1,000 on a pop. No way, absolutely not.
So in addition to Funkos, what other wrestling related items do you like to collect?
So I'm a casual action figure collector. I got a lot of like the Jakks, like classic superstars from that line from back in the day. I'm not like a Hasbro guy. I never got it. Like, that was before my time. I missed that. I was too young anyways. And I just never went back to kind of take care of those. There's like if I see a cool like Mattel figure nowadays, I'll buy it. I do have something I brought these, like I said, I buy figures when it makes sense. So obviously AEW just released their newest figures, their first line, and they had two chases, Cody Rhodes and a Chris Jericho. Cody Rhodes is one of 500. Chris Jericho is one of 1,000. Not many of them out there. Well, you're looking at each of them right here, baby. Uh-huh.
To my knowledge, the greatest wrestling figure collector, maybe outside of Matt Cardona, is Fig Heel on Instagram.
Okay. Yeah.
In his episode, he mentions that he's looking. One thing in the world that he's looking for is the Cody Rhodes.
I'm sure he is. Yeah. I mean, this. They went randomly online on Ringside Collectibles, and like, I know the guys at Ringside Collectibles, and I'm not gonna lie, I emailed them ahead of time and said I was like trying to get the Iggy. They did not give me the Iggy ahead of time. This Cody here was called Apple Pay, baby. You click, and I'm in. And this sold out immediately. And really, Ringside didn't have all 500 of them. These are going to still float in the stores a little bit. So I don't know how many really went online. But, I mean, again, this is not something I need, but I'm very happy to have it. So
in addition to being a collector, you are getting into the wrestling business as a worker.
Yeah.
Do you want to tell everyone about that journey that you're going through?
Yeah, worker for lack of a better term. It's been something in the back of my mind for a long time. I'm a small guy. Like, you know me, I'm not a big guy by any means. So I would never had aspirations to be a wrestler, but I did feel like I could contribute to wrestling in other ways as a mouthpiece, as a manager, whatever you want to call it. So an opportunity presented itself a couple of years ago, locally here in Chicago. Freelance Wrestling, it's one of my home promotions now. I had done a little bit of like a work shoot thing there as a surprise. It went over really well. I knew I was very strong on the mic going into that. I'm a theater major going back to college. I've always been kind of a good talker. I'm comfortable in large crowds. So it all made sense to be able to do something in wrestling, considering I'm a huge fan. So that's my first appearance was late 2016. And then no one really knew what to make of me because I'm the guy who's been dressed as a clown in the front row of the shows. No one really knew me. Like, the perception, there's a perception sometimes of me, there's really a weird stigma of like, that is negative towards me. And I don't know necessarily, I guess I understand why people see it in a certain way, but I'm like, oh, I'm a good guy. People know me. I feel like I'm a nice guy. But I've now used that perception to me on the internet, this weird internet heat, to like use it in wrestling and get actual heat at events. Yeah. So really, like, this year, I was really hitting my stride mid to late 2019 into 2020, early part of 2020. And I felt like in 2020, things really clicked. They always say like the light bulb goes on. Now, if you were to ask me a year ago at this time, or maybe like early 2019, if you were to ask me like, where do you think you're at? I'd be like, oh, I'm ready. Put me on TV right now. I'm good. And now I look back on it, I'm like, oh no, I wasn't. I really believe in myself, and I have a big chip on my shoulder to like prove people wrong. Like, oh, Frank the Clown, what is he doing here? What is that guy doing here? He just shouldn't be here. So I've had this chip on my shoulder for a while. I literally think I'm the best manager in wrestling, whether I am or not. I actually believe that. So I want to be able to kind of showcase these skills on a bigger platform, and hope, does it happen? We'll see. But I'm ready for it if it does.
Is there anything else you want to plug before I let you go?
Yeah, my social media is Frank WWE Clown at Twitter and Instagram. I'm trying to get them changed to something more generic, but we're working on it. It's not as easy as it seems, but yeah, that's where I'm at now. I'm a pretty good social media guy, I think. I like to think so. Yeah, it was awesome to catch up. It's been a minute since we kind of had an extended talk, so this was nice.
I hope we can do it again, but it was very interesting hearing you talk about your collection and learning a little bit more about Funko since I don't know anything. This was a great lesson.
Slippery slope.
Yeah, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, man, thank you.
All right. All right, next up we have another huge WCW collector. It's Dan, aka Juicy's Wrestling Closet. He has one of the biggest collections of WCW pay-per-view shirts. For those that don't know you or do not follow your page, can you please tell us a little bit about what you like to collect?
It kind of just this whole wave of the Instagram wave kind of hit 2017-ish when I kind of got in and saw it all happening. And the first shirt I got that I was like, they made a shirt for this? And I was, taken aback was Spring Stampede 94. And I love that pay-per-view. It's got the Chicago Street Fight with Foley and Max Payne.
That's one of my favorite tag matches of all time.
I saw it on the Mick Foley's Greatest Hits and Misses DVD before the network came out. And I was like, I didn't know the match existed, not having anything.
So I'm pretty open about not really wearing loud all over print type shirts or tie-dyes, but if you look in the back of that in the match when they're going down the aisle and they're fighting, you'll see at the merch stand at the back of that aisle the Nasty Boys tie-dye is in that match. So that's the big reason why I own that, because I love that match so much.
And they put them through the little fake merch table right after that. And I love that. I love when they go to the merch stands and show stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So when I got that shirt, I got it for relatively cheap, maybe $40, $50. And I was like, this seems kind of cheap for a shirt that's so old. And I love this pay-per-view and this would be a great representation. I didn't even know they had this type of thing. So then I started getting into it and I got a Too Cold Scorpio Buff Bagwell or Marcus Bagwell shirt. And I was like all these vintage 93, 96 WCW stuff. And I happened upon the original, not the one you wore previously, the one Cactus Jack shirt, the Bang Bang. There's a couple of them in there.
Cactus.
And I traded it for the shirt I'm wearing now, which is Super Brawl 4, Vader versus Flair in the Thunder Cage, not to be confused with Thunderdome. This a funny thing about this event in particular, there's no VHS tape for this event. It's only on the network. And it's just I love stuff like that. And it makes me so much more interested in the product that I'm trying to collect. I'm a huge WCW fan. When I was 3 years old, so I have this VHS tape, June 10th, 1996, Wheeling, West Virginia. I was there. I was third row. My dad holds me up and you can see me for 2 seconds while Jim Duggan comes out and I'm waving the American flag. That's the show where Kevin Nash shows up for the first time.
Wow.
And says, look at the adjective play. And it was fantastic. I didn't know any of that. I was 3, but that kind of sparked it. And I was always WCW. I'd watch Raw and I kept up with it. And of course, huge fan still to this day. Of course, I do like having the alternate competition with AEW. Everything's great being a wrestling fan. But growing up WCW, I wanted to carve a niche for myself. Everybody's got all their, collections. You've got plenty of different pieces of collections and you kind of make your own collection.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to do every WCW pay-per-view shirt I'm starting with 90, but from 90 to 01 when the company closes, I wanted to get a shirt, whether it be from the fans, like you could buy it at the merch stand, or if a crew member, which you go back and watch the events, they're wearing the shirts that I end up having. I don't know which one you could pick, but it says crew on it in some form. And it's got maybe a different logo than the one that you see. And I've wanted to get one for each event so that no matter what, I have a little bit of history from each WCW pay-per-view event. Because if you look, especially the later ones, there's 3,000 to 5,000 people maybe at these shows. Not everyone's going to have those shirts.
From 1990 to 2001, WCW had a total of 100 pay-per-views. Juicy currently has 85 of those 100 pay-per-view shirts. He's currently 15 shirts away from completing his WCW pay-per-view tee collection. He currently owns almost all of the Starrcade shirts, World War III, Fall Brawl, Hog Wild and Road Wild, Bash the Beach and Beach Blast, Great American Bash, Slamborees, Uncensored, Sold Outs, and Halloween Havocs. While the last 15 are very hard to come by, if I had to guess, Juicy should complete the collection by the end of 2021.
When did you start watching wrestling?
I can remember 96, 95, 96, 2 or 3 years old. My dad would have me watching Nitro, and we'd flip over watch Raw, and that I was just hooked ever since. We would buy pay-per-views, and it just never really stopped.
Was there like a match that like really drew you in when you were younger?
So a match that drew me in that I could really remember. So my dad played deck hockey, which is not rollerblades. It's just on your feet, right? And you just run around, and it's fun. But he would play at this one rink, and the lady that owned that place, she was a wrestling fan or kind of fringe on watching it, but it was huge at the time. This is 2000, 2001. And she would buy the pay-per-views, but she would record them on VHS tape, and she knew I liked wrestling, so she'd give them to me. So the only 2 tapes I had for a long time were Royal Rumble 2000 and Mania 17. So pretty much it's the street fight at Rumble 2000 with Cactus and Triple H, but then Mania 17, which here's another little piece. I'm just going to pop in little pieces here. This is the DVD version that has My Way from Limp Bizkit. No edits, the only good way to have it. And the TLC 2 match, I think, for a long time was my number 1 overall match. It's got everything. That's one of my favorite matches. And that's one of my matches where if you know someone that's not a wrestling fan, but you're a friend of them, and you're like, hey, you might not care for this, but I bet if I show you something, you might find something good out of it. And they're like, I can't believe what that is. Let me see something else. And then it just, it starts from there. So that's pretty much what got me into it. I only saw those events growing up based on bootleg tapes.
Do you have a favorite wrestler?
But Sting was my favorite growing up. I was Sting for Halloween a couple times, although I was Spike Dudley for another year. That was when ECW was really kicking, but Sting was definitely, a WCW guy, never left. Hogan was such a big deal in WWE for so long, but I kind of only saw it as he turned heel. That's when I was even aware of anything. Mm-hmm. So to me, it's like, oh, Sting is this guy. Going back, of course, you see Hulkamania, and you can't, I don't know. That's a whole nother thing. But to me, seeing Sting go through it, he never looked like he wasn't happy. He was always given crazy matches. My favorite matches of his are with Vader. It's the Superman type gimmick, but it's done so like organically, and like I believe it. He's not just like beating these guys. Like he's having wars with these guys. Of course, have the all over print.
Ooh. So do you want to show us some of your favorite items?
Sure. And I've got, so I'm all pay-per-view related, WCW pay-per-view, but I'm not limited to shirts. Now, there are shirts that I've got where I've got the fan version and I've got a crew version, which are 2 completely different prints, 2 completely different shirts. So I kind of like that. I don't like going after like multiple, things like 3 for an event, say. But let's see, some of the ones that I wanted to show for this particular, we've got, I know you've got a couple of these bad boys. Bash of the Beach 95. You got the orange one. I really would like both. But
I sold the orange one. There's only, for the most part, just because I'm old and very particular, I only wear like tie-dyes and stuff to bed or like around the house. But that is special to me because I went there with my dad.
Oh, you were there.
Yeah, and
oh man,
I was 11. I could barely see. We're like,
yeah. How far back were you?
Way close to the ocean.
Oh, you're on that side. Okay.
And when we got there, it's like burning hot. And then by the end of it, I'm like freezing. So we were kind of like skidding through and like going through the crowd, getting out of there while the Hogan Vader match was going on.
It's a fun little match. You missed a little bit.
We were like way out towards the exit, trying to leave when that match was ending, and then we kind of just like left because parking was a mess. I'm not from the Huntington Beach area. We had to drive. We had to like park far away. Beach parking.
Wow.
So it was a whole thing. But I have great memories from that. Obviously had to own it. And I love seeing like Arn Anderson run out in the shirt.
Let's move on to another one. This is a crew shirt. And we'll just start for the crew portion. But you Hogan fans will know this one as the Bash at the Beach 94. So odd, 2 Bash at the Beaches back-to-back that was shown. But that's Flair Hogan's first match in WCW. Shaq's there, everybody's there, Michael Buffer. It's huge numbers for WCW, changed everything. And that was the first change that he hit. Then he turned heel and everything changed again. Mm-hmm. This particular one is a unique one. World War III 95, the first one. The Majesty, Peter Rosenberg traded me this shirt, and Slamboree 96 for, I believe, the Mega Maniacs shirt that I had. Here's the VHS for World War III. It's another little thing. Every time I watch the shows, it just puts me right back in there, and it's great having a little piece, of that particular event. This is another one of the last ones I'll show for this little portion. I got this recently.
Oh wow!
Which I think is my oldest shirt that I have. I have Starrcade 90, and actually this shirt, this Great American Bash one's in better condition than that one. We talked about Sting Flair wins the world title for the first time. Just a great event, great way to end that match too, with a roll up at the end. And it's just, there's so many memories and so much history with that. It's been 30 years, here in 2020 with that event. We've got the Bash at the Beach 1996 Shark Koozie, great for beer, beverages. It's just, I love it. Like, I have the shirt. I actually didn't post the shirt yet. I've been waiting to post the shirt because I don't know how many people knew I finally got it. But this one is a cool little piece to go along with it. So it's like it's like you were there. Yeah, I got the white one. I thought the blue one was actually the harder one.
The blue one. I mean, I think this was like 2017 when I probably had like 30 or 40 shirts at that point. Okay. That was the biggest deal ever to me when I first got that shirt. Like that
the blue one.
Yeah, that shirt means more to me than like almost everything I own. It's definitely my,
really
top. Yeah, I mean that's the event that really got me back into wrestling. I went to WrestleMania 12, and to be transparent, I was pretty bored most of the time. I mean,
I'm glad you said. I was going to ask your opinion of that final match there.
Things where like a lot of the newer collectors are like obsessed with this era, and they're obsessed with that event and everything surrounding that event. But between the backlot brawl and the main event taking over an hour when I'm 12 years old and I have to like piss from drinking so much Coke and like I'm just like antsy and crazy. I don't know that. Watching it now, it's fine, and
it's fine. You wonder how you made it though, right?
Yeah, but being 12 years old, it's just like,
show me something else.
Let's wrap this up. So after that, I was kind of like watching wrestling, and then I got Bash at the Beach 96, and that's when I saw it, and I got pulled into the NWO storyline so heavily that I couldn't look back. It was just like, I took 2 years off from watching wrestling. Now this thing happened. I'm not stopping.
And I have this little piece. I don't know how well you can see it.
Oh, cool.
It'd be better if you could feel this, because it's got some weight to it. It's metal. It's bigger than, I'd say it's about a 50-cent piece in size, but it's the WCW World Title, the design that I showed there, and on the back, you won't be able to see, but at least you can see that there is something there. It's a little list, and it's got LL, Lex Luger, and across it has the date, and it's the date of when he won at Great American Bash. The next one says S, Sting, and it says the date of Super Brawl 2, which we'll go into that. There is no shirt that I've seen for that event. And it goes all the way down to Ric Flair winning it in April of '94, and it has every other little initial of the people that had it. Even if it was held up, it says HU for held up. But at your pop-up event in New York, I bought Slamboree '94. I was so excited. The pop-up event is so cool. I was so excited to be there. Huge line wrapped around the building. You know, you walk in, it's like dingy, it's dark, but like there's like hundreds of dollars worth of stuff like all over these racks. And it's not just like, I mean, maybe one or two fans are just like, oh, wrestling shirts. But everybody there, first of all, you're all there probably for Mania. So you're super mega hardcore there. But you're at this event, you have your wallet ready. You got to be there. You got your eyes. I missed out on Beach Blast '93, the tank. I ended up getting a shirt of it later on, so I didn't need to, so. But I was glad. I wanted to get something, and I got that. The other, so I'm so excited for the next pop-up that you can do. Hopefully, it's at an event that people can do right. You know, otherwise it's just gonna be online stuff. But you know, you kill it anyway. So what's the difference?
It's such a strange transition. I don't want to spend too much time on me because this
right.
show is always about the collectors.
Right. A lot of us wouldn't be here without you coming into the game, though, Ted. Yeah. We wouldn't be here.
Thank you.
Right.
You know, it's been a very odd year because, you know, I started.
You don't say.
I started the year stockpiling for a WrestleMania event, and that's really the last time that I had stockpiled anything because, you know, I was expecting another big crowd, you know,
right.
flying cross country with 3 giant suitcases again.
Right.
You know, and doing this thing and organizing it, and then to just have the COVID thing happen and everything get canceled and kind of figure things out. I mean, it's definitely been on because I really do enjoy putting on those events and having people like you there who are, you know, hardcore collectors and they're very specific about what they want.
Right.
So it sucks, but you know, hopefully next year or the following year, whatever it is.
But do you foresee in this market, current climate, or maybe just how you predict Attitude Era stuff, early stuff, where's the market going to fluctuate? And what do you think is going to be, maybe not the next wave, but like what's going to be the staying power? Because right now, you know what is really hitting hard and like, well, this shirt's going to be $300 at least. Like, you know that.
I don't know what's next. I know that, you know, there obviously will be a demand for things that aren't currently in high demand right now, like 2003 stuff, 2004 stuff. I think a lot of early Cena will go for money. Obviously,
I can agree on that. That I think has been something that's been cooking for a while.
Yeah, I think the early Cena, especially before he changed his gimmick, is going to go for a lot of money.
Right.
CM Punk stuff, I'm always a big fan of because until he really, you know, becomes part of WWE again, they're distancing themselves from him, and they don't make any of this stuff. They're like, you can get a Cena shirt in every single catalog still. But CM Punk, there's a finite amount out there. So do you want to get into your Holy Grail?
Yeah, let's get into the Grail. Before we get, I want to show one other little piece. This is probably when I switched and I got the job that I currently have now 4 years ago. And I started just having a little bit more money to spend, and I got into the game, and we're here now. And I saw this shirt, and I had never seen it before. I'd never seen it since. I was a little discouraged when I found out this is probably a bootleg, but then also kind of reinvigorated when I saw you and some other people posting crazy awesome bootlegs. Mm-hmm. And like, they're worth it because bootlegs, again, weren't as readily available, or there's only so many this person printed, and some of the graphics are pretty dope. So this is, and I wish this was a real shirt if it's not. This is my little bootleg I Dig The Undertaker shirt. It might be my favorite. It's got the little, like, it's a pun. It's got a little shovel there. It's got Paul Bearer on it. It's just, it's unbelievable. It's a Screen Stars tee. Mm-hmm. So it's of the period. It's got the block WWF logo. The graphics are just incredible. I've never seen anything like it, and I've never seen one since. And plenty of people have been like, "Oh, well, you have any Undertaker stuff?" Yeah, I do. It's right here. Oh, what about that one? I don't think so. This has been one shirt where it'd have to be some crazy grail WCW pay-per-view shirt that like I need to like finish the set because I've never seen another Undertaker shirt like that. So the stuff I'm missing. So I'm trying again as a base start. I'm going from 1990 to 01, any pay-per-view. Now, again, like I said earlier, there's your Starrcade 86 or 87, 85. Forget 84, 83. I know you've got them all.
I have 84, 85, 86, 87. 88 is the worst shirt. I don't care about it.
88 is terrible. Was that True Grit?
Yeah.
It's that white shirt. Yeah, I've seen you have that for years.
Yeah, because the 88 is so bad, I don't collect beyond that. And then the only Starrcades I have are the 96, or sorry, not 96, the 97, because I have great memories from watching that. I know that it wasn't the outcome that everyone.
Hey, I do too.
But I remember I was in Denver, Colorado, visiting my aunt, and she was having like a New Year's Eve party because it was like around the New Year's Eve time, and it was cold, and I was like, kind of bored, but she was so nice. Like, what would make you happy? And I'm like, I just want to watch Starrcade.
Right.
Put me Starrcade, put me in the basement, watch that thing. I was happy as a clam. So.
Oh, of course.
Have to own that one.
Starrcade 97 is one I don't have. As of right now, from 90 to 01, I've got the complete years of 01, 2000, 95. I would go top three that I need, and one of them actually in this top three is not even WCW pay-per-view. It's a WWF pay-per-view that I want more than anything, and we'll get there. But I would say Starrcade 93 is one that I really want. I know somebody that has it. I might have to give away one of the shirts I previously showed you to get such shirt, and maybe some cash consideration. But who knows? But that's a tough shirt to find. Again, I've only seen it once. I've seen it plenty of times on the show, and it bothers me. I'm like, oh my god! Like, I want to transplant myself to one show and just gather all the merch because no one would have guessed. Another one that I've been trying to get and I just can't seem to ever find it. Although you had it briefly, you might still have the one Battle Bowl 93.
Sometimes you have to give up some big ones in order to get what's really meaningful to you.
Right. And that's what I'm saying. The Battle Bowl is such a unique show, and I think it's the first Mean Gene pay-per-view that he does, and it's just such an odd. Starrcade was always great, and then 91, let's do Battle Bowl. Okay, 92, let's do Battle Bowl, and it was like even less people, and they didn't even focus the whole show on it. 91 was all Battle Bowl. 93, let's just add another pay-per-view and make it all Battle Bowl, and it was just lame, but I love it, and I could watch it over and over and over again, and that shirt's very hard to find. Now, those are probably my hardest WCW ones to find. I'll also throw in Halloween Havoc 94. I've never seen it. I know one guy that has it. He's the same guy that has it previous to I mentioned. And it's just so unique. I've only seen it a handful of times in general, just pictures of it. And it was a great big cage match on the front. They got the cage on the front. It's Hogan and Flair, where Flair gets retired, comes back at Uncensored 95 the next year. But Halloween Havoc 94, such a unique shirt. But a shirt from the same year, 1 month later, WWF, my favorite pay-per-view shirt of all time. I don't have it. I want it so bad. Some people crap on it, and then I'll watch the Control Center, and I'll see Todd Pettengill wearing the all-over Western motif, greatest aesthetic for a pay-per-view of all time, Survivor Series 94.
Today's merch, they don't really put the effort into it, but it would be a master tie-dyer to make that shirt. So we've gone over your collection. We've gone over some items that you're missing. Is there anything else that you want to discuss kind of about where you see the market going or your personal collection?
Where I see the market going, I would have to just agree with you. I think it's only going to get crazier. It's only going to get more expensive. It's going to get even more niche, if that's possible. and getting more niche as it actually expands. Like the years are going to continue as we get, like in 5 years, the stuff from maybe, 2000 up to that early scene, like right at that 2005 and before cutoff, even that stuff I think is going to start picking up steam. Your edges, the guys that are going to be your Randy Ortons, like maybe your RKO original shirts, those might start, they were mass produced, but maybe no one thought that Randy Orton was going to be anything too crazy down the line. And now he's in a huge upper spot of world titles. And I don't think you just can't ever tell. So I think it's only going to get crazier. I think the shirts that we have now that we've been discussing today and that all of your guests have been talking about are going to get more sparse. I don't think as many people are going to be willing to necessarily get rid of them unless they can get that elevated price that guys like us have been help gather and create this market that has just been, you want this, well, I got to have this. And it's been a great little interaction for so many years now. It's crazy that it's been 3, 4, 5 years. It's been picking up so much steam, and I could only see it getting more expansive on social media, your Instagrams and your Twitters and Facebooks and stuff on eBay is going to go crazy. As long as those things stay in place, and as long as the passion's still there, and I know the passion's there with you, I know I've got it. I know plenty of guys out there that are just so driven to get, this particular shirt or this particular collection, because you want to look back on it and be like, it's keeping our time. It's taking our money, but it's something that it's keeping us invested in something that we care about. And it's not malicious. I think you mentioned it to one of your interviews. You were like, this is such a great place, even though there might be some negative look at wrestling in general, but when you really get into it, we're all just people that love the craft. We love the merch. We love being a part of the whole experience. Like because we're talking about shirts, right? But we've gotten into like our childhood and like going to shows and like family stuff, and it really touches more than we think and more than outside people think. So I think whenever stuff like this brings other people together, again, people that I didn't know who you were, and I don't know half these. You get such a community. It's nice knowing that there's other people just as crazy as we are, and I'm excited for the future to continue to get crazier. And I'm liking that our niche is so cool that it's like I encourage you. Like I want you to get the certain catalog of stuff, because to me, there's a chance that if I found something, I'd be able to maybe piece together something for you, and I know you'll look out for me. And it's that camaraderie that I think drives us to keep going. And it's great. So that's why wrestling is so great, I think.
Yeah. And you know what? It was great to talk to you finally. It was great to, kind of go over some of your favorites in your collection. And, I look forward to catching up with you soon. Hopefully we can get some of those other ones you're looking for.
Yeah, man. Anytime. I'm so glad I got to do this. I feel that there's such a big core group of guys that are in this that really care. And I think that by you presenting this little show, you really get to see the passion and the drive. And for a lot of these guys, for me, to an extent, like if this is my passion and I'm not too passionate, because I'm passionate about a lot of stuff like music and like Seinfeld. I collect a lot of stuff, right? But this is where it is for me in general. So to be able to share it with other people, I know for me, and I know for other people, it's nice knowing that there are other people out there that are willing to sit down and chat for an hour. And it shows other people that we are very invested, and this is where we like to get together and really show our passions. And I just think it's awesome. It's great.
Well, I do appreciate your time. I'm going to let you get back to your night. Thank you so much for coming on. Again, I'll be looking out for the ones that you need, and hopefully I can help you fill some of those holes.
Perfect. And I'll do the same for you, but it's going to be tough finding some of those catalog pieces. I got to be honest.
I know.